The crystal spires of Kalari Prime burned against the purple sky. Chief Scientist Zefka pressed her four-fingered hands against the observation deck's transparent walls, watching her world die. The Vorthak warships moved like giant metal insects across the horizon, their biomechanical hulls pulsing with sickly green light. Each pulse meant another district reduced to ash. The eastern evacuation centers are gone, reported Subcommander Lirave from behind her. The young Kalari's voice shook despite her training. They targeted the civilian shelters first. Zefka's tail twitched with barely controlled fear. The Kalari had always been peaceful. Their federation spanned 12 star systems, built on trade and scientific advancement. They had no weapons beyond basic security systems. Why would they need more? The galaxy was vast and mostly empty. Wars were ancient history, something primitive species did before they learned to think. The Vorthak had taught them how wrong they were. "Ma'am, the Council is asking for your presence in the emergency chamber," Lirave continued. "They want to discuss surrender terms." "Surrender?" Zefka turned away from the burning city. Have they not seen what the Vorthak do to those who surrender? 3 months ago, the Vorthak Empire had emerged from the outer rim like a nightmare made real. They conquered the Helix colonies in days. The survivors who escaped spoke of horror beyond imagination. The Vorthak did not just kill. They consumed. They took living beings and transformed them into parts of their war machine. A Helix trader had shown the Council recordings before his mind finally broke. Children turned into biocomputers. Adults melted down and reformed into ship components that still screamed. The Vorthak were not just conquerors. They were a plague. "The Council believes we might be able to negotiate for some of our people," Lirave said quietly. "The Council is wrong." Zefka walked toward the laboratory's central console. "The Vorthak do not negotiate. They harvest." Another explosion shook the building. Through the walls, they could hear the deep humming of Vorthak bioships. The sound made Zefka's bones ache. Her people's sensitive hearing, evolved to detect the slightest changes in their crystal city's harmonic frequencies, now worked against them. Every Vorthak ship was a source of constant pain. "Ma'am, what are you doing?" Lirave watched as Zefka began activating ancient equipment, something the Council would call madness. Zefka's fingers moved across controls that had not been used in 1,000 years. "I am accessing the Deep Archive emergency protocols." The Deep Archive was older than the Kalari Federation. It contained knowledge from the galaxy's earliest civilizations, including warnings and quarantine notices. Most of it was considered historical curiosity. Who worried about ancient dangers when the galaxy was peaceful and well-mapped? "Ma'am, those systems are restricted. The Council voted to seal them after the Thurian incident." The Council never expected to face extinction. Zefka pulled up files that made Lirave step back in alarm. These records speak of quarantine zones. Regions of space marked as too dangerous for contact. Dangerous how? Species classifications the archive calls Deathworld origins. Zefka's hands moved faster now. The building shook again, and she could hear Vorthak bioforms breaking through the lower levels. The archive warns that some worlds produce life forms so aggressive, so adapted to violence. That contact should be avoided at all costs. That sounds like the Vorthak themselves. No. Zefka brought up a star chart that made Lirave gasp. Entire sectors were marked in red with warning symbols. The Vorthak are predators, yes, but they evolved in normal space on normal worlds. These others, she pointed to a region near the galaxy's edge. These evolved on worlds the archive calls impossible to survive. The map showed dozens of systems marked with warnings in languages neither Kalari could read. But the symbols were universal. Danger. Death. Stay away. "Ma'am, surely you are not thinking of contacting these Deathworld species?" "I am thinking of survival." Zefka began composing a message on frequencies so old they predated most galactic civilizations. The Vorthak have adapted to fight every species they have encountered. Their bioships learn from each battle, growing stronger with every victory. They have faced traders, farmers, builders, thinkers. They have never faced something that learned to fight before it learned to think. The building's main power failed. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows as Zefka worked by touch and memory. Below them, the sounds of destruction grew closer. The Vorthak bioforms were climbing toward the laboratory level. "This is madness," Lirave whispered. "Even if these Deathworld species exist, even if they receive our message, why would they help us?" We are nothing to them. Because, Zefka said, finalizing the transmission, sometimes predators hunt other predators. The message was simple. Coordinates. A basic mathematical proof of intelligence. Images of the Vorthak attack. And one word repeated in every ancient language the archive contained. Help. Zefka activated the transmission array just as the laboratory door exploded inward. Vorthak bioforms poured through the opening like living nightmares. They moved on too many legs, their bodies a fusion of organic tissue and metal machinery. Where faces should be, clusters of eyes and mechanical sensors focused on the two Kalari. Message sent, Zefka said calmly. The lead bioform raised an appendage that dripped with both acid and cutting tools. It spoke in a voice like grinding metal. Kalari scientist. You will be converted. Your knowledge will serve the Empire. My knowledge, Zefka replied, standing straight despite her terror. Just called for help from something worse than you. The bioform paused. Its cluster of eyes focused more intently on her. Explain. I sent a message to the quarantine zones, to the Deathworld species. For the first time since the invasion began, Zefka saw something unexpected in a Vorthak creation. Fear. Impossible, the bioform said. The Deathworld regions are sealed. No communication reaches those sectors. Old frequencies, Zefka said. Older than your empire. Older than most civilizations. The bioform's mechanical parts whirred and clicked as it processed this information. It matters not. The Deathworld species are contained for good reason. They will not come, maybe, Zefka agreed. But if they do, she never finished the sentence. The bioform ended her life with clinical efficiency, but the message was already traveling through space on frequencies that predated galactic civilization. It moved past dead worlds and empty systems beyond the boundaries of known space, toward regions marked with warnings no one remembered how to read. In the Deep Archive's final automated log, a single line was recorded. Emergency protocol activated. Message transmitted to sector designation. Sol 3. Species classification. Deathworld Class 12 quarantine. Indefinite. Far across the galaxy, in a region of space that official star charts labeled as navigation hazard avoid, something received the message. Something that had been watching the galaxy's edge for exactly this kind of signal. Something that had been waiting for a very long time to show the galaxy what real predators looked like. The Kalari were wrong about one thing. The Deathworld species were not contained. They were simply being careful, but now they had a reason to stop being careful. Now they had something to hunt. Deep Space Monitoring Station Cerberus floated in the darkness between stars, its sensors reaching into the void like electronic whispers. Chief Communications Officer Diana Park had been tracking background radiation when the impossible happened. A signal arrived on frequencies so old that Earth's computers had to dig through archaeological databases to decode them. Admiral Chen, you need to see this. Diana's voice carried across the command center with unusual urgency. Admiral Sarah Chen moved from her position at the tactical display. At 55, she had spent her entire career preparing for threats that never came. Humanity had been alone in the universe for so long that some people wondered if they would always be alone. The discovery of faster-than-light travel had led to exploration and colonization, but no contact with other intelligent life. Until now. What am I looking at, Chief? Chen studied the data streaming across Diana's screens. A distress call, ma'am, but not from any human vessel. The words hung in the air like a physical presence. Every person in the command center stopped what they were doing. Are you certain? Mathematical proofs check out as non-human origin. The signal contains star charts of regions we have never mapped. And, ma'am, Diana hesitated. The message includes images. The holographic display activated, showing scenes that made hardened military personnel step backward. Crystalline cities under attack by ships that seemed more grown than built. Beings with forearms and tails being hunted by mechanical horrors that moved like insects, but showed clear signs of intelligence. Jesus Christ, whispered Commander Torres from the tactical station. They are being slaughtered. How far? Chen asked. The signal's origin point is approximately 400 light-years toward Galactic Center. If we push our fastest ships, we could reach there in 6 days. Chen stared at the images of destruction. Her grandfather had told her stories about Earth's last global war, about the camps and the systematic killing of civilians. She had sworn the same oath as every officer in Earth's military. Never again. "Ma'am," Diana continued, "there is something else. The signal was sent on emergency frequencies that predate known galactic civilization. Whoever sent this knew exactly how to reach us. Meaning someone out there has been watching us. And they know where we are." Chen felt the weight of decision settling on her shoulders. Humanity's first contact with alien life was not a peaceful meeting between explorers. It was a desperate call for help from a dying civilization. "Torres, prep the fleet. Everything we can get combat ready in the next 6 hours." "Ma'am, are you sure? We know nothing about these aliens. This could be a trap." Chen looked at the images again. The beings in the recordings were clearly fleeing, clearly terrified. Children among them, if her interpretation was correct. "Look at those faces, Commander. You see deception? You see hostiles laying a trap?" Torres studied the hologram and shook his head. "No, ma'am. I see people asking for help. Then we help them." Chen turned to the communications station. "Diana, send word to Earth Command. Tell them we have made contact and we are responding to a humanitarian crisis. Torres, I want every ship we can spare. This is what we trained for. Ma'am, we trained to defend Earth from alien invasion." "No, Commander. We trained to defend innocent people from those who would harm them. The location does not matter. Within hours, humanity's response fleet assembled near the edge of the Sol system. 12 heavy cruisers, 36 destroyers, and 4 carrier groups loaded with fighter squadrons and marine assault units. It was the largest military force humanity had ever deployed. Captain Marcus Rivera stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable, watching the final ships take their positions. His crew moved with practiced efficiency, preparing for a journey into the unknown. They had trained for this moment their entire careers, though none of them had expected their first alien contact to involve combat. "Captain, we are receiving Admiral Chen's final briefing," reported Lieutenant Zhang from communications. Chen's image appeared on the main screen, broadcasting to the entire fleet. "Ladies and gentlemen, today we make history. We are no longer alone in the universe, but our new neighbors are under attack by an aggressive force that shows no mercy to civilians." The Admiral's expression hardened. "Intelligence analysis of intercepted communications suggests we are dealing with a species that conquers through complete domination. They do not negotiate. They do not show mercy. They view other life forms as resources to be harvested." Rivera felt his jaw clench. He had studied Earth's history extensively. He knew what happened when civilizations met others who viewed them as resources. "Our mission is simple," Chen continued. "We jump to the target system. We assess the situation, and we render aid to innocent beings under attack. The enemy has never encountered humans before. They do not know what we are capable of. Let us show them." The fleet began its jump sequence. Rivera watched space bend around them as humanity's ships entered faster than light travel. They were racing toward a war zone 400 light-years away, to help aliens they had never met, against an enemy they knew nothing about. "Captain," said Chief Engineer Patel over the comm system, "the crew is asking questions. They want to know what we are getting into." Rivera considered the question. What were they getting into? Humanity had spent centuries studying warfare, perfecting weapons, training for conflicts that never came. Every human military doctrine was built around one central assumption: they might one day need to fight for their survival. But they had always assumed they would be fighting for Earth, for human colonies, for human lives. "Tell the crew," Rivera said finally, "that we are doing what humans do best." "Which is?" Rivera looked at the star charts showing their destination. Somewhere ahead, people were dying while predators consumed their world. Somewhere ahead, innocents called for help into the darkness, not knowing if anyone would answer. "We are answering the call," he said. "When someone needs help, humans answer the call." As the fleet traveled through the impossible distances between stars, intelligence officers worked to decode more intercepted communications. What they learned made the mission more urgent. The attackers called themselves the Vorthok Empire. They had conquered dozens of worlds using living ships that adapted to enemy tactics. They turned conquered populations into components for their war machine. "Captain," reported Intelligence Officer Commander Kim, "we have identified the enemy's primary weakness." "Which is?" "They have never fought anyone like us. Every species they have conquered followed predictable patterns: fight, lose, surrender, try to negotiate. They have adapted to handle rational, peaceful civilizations. Rivera nodded. But they have never fought anyone who evolved on a death world. Exactly. Their tactical databases will be useless against us. As the fleet neared its destination, humanity prepared for its first contact with alien life. They brought gifts of medicine, technology, and scientific knowledge. But they also brought something no other species in the galaxy possessed: the hard-earned wisdom of a world that had spent millions of years trying to kill everything that lived on it. They brought the fury of creatures who had learned to survive by making their enemies extinct. The Vorthak Empire was about to learn why Earth was marked as a quarantine zone in the ancient archives. They were about to meet the Deathworlders. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kalari system. What they found was a vision of hell painted across the stars. Kalari Prime burned like a dying ember in the darkness. The planet's surface showed scars of orbital bombardment, its beautiful crystal cities reduced to glowing craters, but the planet still lived, and that meant people might still be alive down there. "Captain, I am reading evacuation ships near the fourth moon," reported Lieutenant Zhang from the sensor station. "Looks like civilian vessels trying to reach the outer system." Captain Rivera studied the tactical display. 3 large ships moved slowly away from the dying world, their energy signatures weak and fluctuating. They were damaged and vulnerable. And between them and safety? Vorthak Intercept Force, sir. 6 bioships moving to cut off their escape route. Rivera felt something cold and sharp settle in his chest. Humanity's first contact with alien life was about to be witnessed from the bridge of a warship, watching predators hunt refugees. How long until the Vorthak ships reach the evacuees? 23 minutes at current speeds. And how long until we reach intercept range? Zhang ran the calculations. 25 minutes, sir. Too late. They were going to be too late to save them. "Belay that," said Chief Navigator Okafor from her station. "Captain, if we push the engines past safety limits and use the moon's gravity well for acceleration boost, we can shave off 4 minutes. That would put dangerous stress on the hull." "Yes, sir. But it would get us there in time." Rivera looked at the tactical display again. 3 ships full of alien civilians, 6 predator vessels moving in for the kill, and 1 chance to make a first impression on behalf of the human race. "Do it. All ships, emergency acceleration. We are going in hot." The human fleet accelerated beyond safe limits, using every trick their engineers had learned in centuries of pushing machines to their breaking points. Warning lights flashed across every bridge as ships strained against forces that should have torn them apart. "Sir, incoming communication from the lead evacuation ship," Zhang announced. "They are trying to establish contact. Put them through." The main screen flickered, showing the bridge of an alien vessel. The being that appeared there made Rivera pause. 4 arms, large eyes filled with intelligence and fear, skin that seemed to shimmer with its own light. Beautiful, in a way that spoke to something deep in human psychology. The alien spoke in a language of musical tones that the computer began translating in real time. "Unknown vessels, I am Sub-Commander Lirave of the Kalari Federation. Please identify yourselves." Rivera stepped forward. "Sub-Commander, I am Captain Marcus Rivera of the United Earthship Indomitable. We received your distress signal." Lirave's eyes widened. "Earth? But the archives say Earth species are quarantined. You are not supposed to exist in civilized space." "Ma'am, with respect, we exist wherever people need help, and right now you need help." Before Lirave could respond, alarms began sounding on both ships. The Vorthak Intercept Force had spotted the human fleet and was changing course to engage. "Captain," reported Torres from Tactical, "the Vorthak ships are unlike anything in our databases. They appear to be organic, but with mechanical components integrated throughout their structure." Rivera studied the enemy vessels as they approached. They moved like living things, but their hulls pulsed with artificial energy. It was a combination of biology and technology that human science had never imagined. "Sir, the lead Vorthak ship is transmitting," Zhang announced. "Let us hear what they have to say." The voice that emerged from the speakers was like grinding metal mixed with insect clicks. The computer's translation software struggled with the alien syntax, but the meaning was clear enough. "Unidentified vessels, you have entered Vorthak territory. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. Your biological components will be harvested for the glory of the Empire." Rivera looked at his crew. Every face showed the same expression: controlled fury. The enemy had just threatened to harvest human biological components. They had just made this personal. Jung, open a channel to the Vorthak vessel. Channel open, sir. Rivera stepped forward, his voice carrying the authority of a man who had never backed down from a fight. Vorthak vessel, this is Captain Rivera of the human fleet. You will immediately cease your attack on the Kalari evacuation ships and withdraw from the system. The response came as mechanical laughter. Humans, the archives speak of your species. Violent primitives from a quarantined death world. You will provide excellent raw material for our bioships. I will provide you with one final warning, Rivera replied calmly. Leave now. Or what, Deathworlder? Rivera looked at the tactical display. The Vorthak ships were spreading out, trying to surround both the human fleet and the Kalari evacuees. Standard predator behavior. Isolate the prey. Cut off escape routes. Move in for the kill. They had never faced prey that fought back like apex predators. Or we will show you why our world is quarantined, Rivera said. He cut the transmission and turned to his tactical officer. Torres, all ships are to protect the Kalari vessels at all costs. Rules of engagement are simple. Anything that threatens civilian evacuation ships is a legitimate target. Sir, what about first contact protocols? Rivera looked at the screen showing Lirave's terrified face on the Kalari ship. Behind her, he could see other aliens, families, children, the survivors of a dying world. Commander, sometimes first contact protocols take second priority to not letting children get murdered by space pirates. The Vorthak ships opened fire first. Bioenergy weapons lanced across space, targeting the slow-moving evacuation vessels. The human fleet moved to intercept, their ships sliding between the attackers and their intended victims. The UES Indomitable took a direct hit to its forward shields. The energy weapon was unlike anything in human experience. It seemed designed to disrupt both mechanical systems and biological functions simultaneously. But human ships were built to survive in a universe that was actively trying to kill everything in it. Shields holding at 70%, reported the engineering station. Return fire, Rivera ordered. Human weapon systems had been designed with one purpose, to end threats as quickly and efficiently as possible. Particle beams and kinetic projectiles struck the lead Vorthak ship with devastating force. The alien vessel reeled from the impact, its biomechanical hull showing damage patterns unlike anything it had experienced. The Vorthak had adapted to fight energy-based weapons and traditional projectiles. They had never faced weapons designed by creatures who spent their evolutionary history learning to kill everything that moved. Direct hit on target 1, Torres reported. Sir, their ship is adapting. The damaged sections are regenerating. Rivera nodded. Intelligence had warned them about this. Vorthak bioships learned from each attack, becoming more resistant to future damage. Then we adapt faster, he said. All ships switch to backup weapon systems. Do not give them time to learn. The human fleet opened fire with secondary weapons, different frequencies, different delivery systems, different approaches to the basic problem of making enemy ships stop existing. The Vorthak vessels, struggling to adapt to the first wave of attacks, found themselves facing entirely new threats before their biological systems could adjust. Captain, Lirave's voice came over the communication channel. Your ships fight like nothing we have ever seen. How do you coordinate such chaotic tactics? Rivera smiled grimly as he watched his fleet tear into the Vorthak formation. Ma'am, we do not coordinate chaos. We are chaos. Every human ship out there is making independent decisions based on one simple rule. Protect the people who cannot protect themselves. The battle was unlike anything the galaxy had ever witnessed. Human ships moved with aggressive unpredictability, using tactics that seemed to prioritize damage over survival. They rammed enemy vessels when their weapons ran low. They used their own ships as shields to protect the Kalari evacuees. They fought like creatures who viewed death as an acceptable cost of protecting others. The Vorthak bioships, designed to adapt to rational tactical patterns, found themselves completely unable to process an enemy that seemed willing to sacrifice everything for beings they had never met before. Within 30 minutes, the Vorthak intercept force was reduced to debris and fleeing survivors. Sir, Torres reported, enemy vessels are retreating. The evacuation ships are safe. Rivera nodded, then opened a channel to the Kalari fleet. Sub-Commander Lirave, this is Captain Rivera. You are safe. Your people are safe. Lirave's image on the screen showed wonder mixed with something that might have been fear. Captain Rivera, who are you? What are you? Rivera looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere out there, the Vorthak Empire was learning about humanity's existence. Learning that the quarantined Deathworld had sent its children to war. "Ma'am," he said, "we are what happens when a Deathworld teaches its children to protect others instead of just themselves." Humanity had made first contact, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Kalari Medical Bay aboard the UES Indomitable was a study in contrasts. Advanced human medical equipment shared space with emergency xenobiology gear, hastily adapted for alien physiology. Dr. Elena Vasquez moved between beds containing wounded Kalari refugees, her scanner showing readings she was still learning to interpret. "The bone density is remarkable," she murmured to her assistant, Corman Williams. "Look at this. Their skeletal structure is designed for a low-gravity environment with minimal physical stress." Subcommander Lirave lay on the examination table, watching the human doctor with obvious fascination. The Kalari had suffered minor injuries during the evacuation, but Dr. Vasquez insisted on examining all the refugees to establish baseline medical data for their species. "Doctor," Lirave said, her translated voice carrying musical undertones, "may I ask you something?" "Of course." Elena continued her scans, marveling at the elegant efficiency of Kalari biology. "Your captain said you are from a death world, but you seemed kind, gentle. How can killers be healers?" Elena paused in her work. It was a question she had been asking herself since the first shots were fired. How do you explain to a peaceful species that the same instincts that drive humans to violence also drive them to protect? "Lirave, may I show you something?" The Kalari nodded, and Elena activated the holographic display system. Three-dimensional images filled the air above them, showing scenes from Earth's history. "This is our world," Elena began. The hologram showed Earth from space, blue and green and beautiful. "It looks peaceful from up here, doesn't it?" "It is beautiful," Lirave agreed. "Now watch this." Elena changed the display to show Earth's surface. Massive storms that could level cities. Volcanic eruptions that blotted out the sun. Earthquakes that split continents. Ice ages that covered half the planet in frozen death. Lirave's eyes widened. "This all happens on one world." "That is just the geology," Elena said grimly. "Now let me show you the biology." The hologram shifted to show Earth's creatures. Predators with teeth designed for tearing flesh, venomous snakes and spiders, microscopic diseases that could kill millions, plants that could poison with a touch. "Everything on our world evolved to kill or avoid being killed," Elena explained. "For millions of years, survival meant being better at violence than everything else around you. But then how did you develop civilization? How did you become rational beings?" Elena smiled sadly. "We became rational because we had to. We learned to work together because alone we died. We developed medicine because disease was always trying to kill us. We created tools because our natural weapons were not good enough." She changed the hologram again, showing early human history. Tribes working together to hunt massive predators. Primitive doctors treating wounds from battles with nature itself. Communities sharing resources to survive winters that would kill individuals. "You see, Lirave, we learned to be violent to survive. But we also learned that violence alone is not enough. We had to be intelligent. We had to cooperate. We had to care for each other." Captain Rivera appeared in the medical bay checking on the refugees. Elena noticed how the Kalari reacted to his presence. Fear mixed with respect. He radiated an aura of controlled danger that peaceful species found unsettling. "Doctor, how are our guests?" Rivera asked. "Physically, they are fine. But Captain, I think you should see this." Elena showed him her medical scans. Their biology is completely adapted for peaceful environments. Look at their muscle density. Barely sufficient for their low-gravity homeworld. Their nervous systems show no stress adaptations. No redundant organs. No emergency response mechanisms. Rivera studied the data. "Meaning?" "Meaning they evolved on a world where the biggest daily threat was probably running out of food or shelter. Nothing tried to eat them. Nothing poisoned them. No natural disasters. No diseases that could wipe out their entire species." "Doctor," Lirave interrupted, "are you saying that all human worlds are like Earth?" Rivera and Elena exchanged glances. How do you explain to someone that every world humans had colonized was considered barely habitable by galactic standards? "Lirave," Rivera said carefully, "humans do not colonize easy worlds. We choose planets that would kill most species within days. High gravity, extreme weather, hostile biology. We do this because these worlds feel comfortable to us. Comfortable? Our colony on New Montana has surface temperatures that reach 50 degrees below zero. Our mining world of Forge has gravity 3 times Earth normal, and an atmosphere that would dissolve most metals. Our farming world of Haven has an ecosystem where literally every plant and animal species is toxic to most known life forms. Lirave stared at him in horror. And humans live there willingly? Lirave, Elena said gently, we live there comfortably. Human children play in environments that would be classified as maximum security hazard zones by your safety standards. Dr. Vasquez activated another holographic display, this one showing human physiology. Let me show you why we can survive where others cannot. The hologram displayed a human skeleton. Notice the bone density 3 times thicker than yours, designed to withstand high-gravity worlds and physical trauma. The display shifted to show the muscular system. Muscle structure optimized for explosive movement and sustained physical stress. A human can run for hours, fight for days, and still function. Now look at this, Elena continued, showing the nervous system. Redundant neural pathways. If part of our brain is damaged, other parts can take over critical functions. Pain tolerance levels that would be considered impossible by most species. The display changed again. Cardiovascular system with multiple backup mechanisms. If one major blood vessel is severed, others can maintain life functions. A human can lose up to 40% of their blood and still fight effectively. Lirave was looking increasingly disturbed. You are describing a creature designed for war. No, Rivera corrected. We are describing a creature designed for survival. War was just one of many threats we had to overcome. Elena nodded. But here's the interesting part, Lirave. The same biological adaptations that make us dangerous also make us protective. She showed neural scans of human brain activity. When humans see others in danger, especially those who cannot protect themselves, our brains release chemicals that create an overwhelming drive to help. We literally cannot ignore suffering. The adrenaline response that makes us deadly in combat also activates when we see innocents threatened, Rivera added. We evolved pack instincts that make us fight harder for others than we do for ourselves. Lirave looked between the two humans. So you are saying that your violence and your compassion come from the same source? Exactly, Elena said. A human parent protecting their child is the same creature as a human soldier protecting civilians. Same biological drives, same chemical responses, same willingness to die for others. The medical bay's communication system activated. Captain Rivera, please report to the bridge. We are receiving multiple distress signals from other systems. Rivera sighed. Doctor, continue the medical evaluations. Lirave, I want you to understand something. The Kalari looked up at him expectantly. Your people sent a call for help into the darkness, not knowing if anyone would answer. We heard that call from 400 light-years away. We dropped everything and came running. Rivera's voice carried the weight of absolute conviction. That is what Deathworlders do. We answer the call. As Rivera left the medical bay, Lirave turned to Dr. Vasquez. Doctor, are all Deathworld species like humans? Elena considered the question carefully. I do not know, Lirave. We have never met any others, but I suspect that any species that survives a Deathworld learns the same lesson we did, which is that the strong exist to protect the weak. Because on a Deathworld, everyone is weak compared to the planet itself. Everyone needs protection sometimes. Lirave was quiet for a long moment. Finally, she spoke. Doctor, our archives contain warnings about Deathworld species. They say such creatures are too dangerous for civilized contact. What do you think now? I think, Lirave said slowly, that the archives were written by people who never needed help, who never faced extinction, who never had to call out into the darkness and hope someone would answer. Elena smiled. And now? Now I think the galaxy needs more Deathworlders, not fewer. Through the medical bay's viewport, they could see the human fleet preparing for departure. More distress signals meant more innocents in danger, more calls for help from the darkness. The Deathworlders were going to answer every one of them, because that is what they were made for. The Vorthak Empire's main fleet assembled in the Nexus system like a plague of metal locusts. 1,000 bioships hung in formation around the massive fortress creature that served as the Empire's mobile command center. For 3 centuries, this fleet had been unstoppable. It had conquered 47 star systems and harvested the biological material of 63 different species. Overmind, Kethvar observed the fleet through 1,000 different sensor nodes, integrated into his consciousness. His body, if it could still be called that, stretched throughout the command vessel's neural network. He was no longer individual Vortak. He was the collective intelligence of the Empire itself. Report. His voice echoed through bioacoustic channels. Across the entire fleet, advance. Scouts confirm the impossible, responded Warnode Prime. The Deathworld species has emerged from quarantine. They destroyed Fleet Group 7 with unprecedented efficiency. Kethvar accessed the recorded battle data from the fleeing survivors. What he saw made no sense according to every tactical model the Empire had developed. The humans fought like creatures that viewed their own destruction as an acceptable cost of achieving objectives. Analysis indicates they prioritized protection of non-combatants over their own survival, Warnode Prime continued. This behavior pattern has no precedent in our databases. All species prioritize survival, Kethvar stated. It is the fundamental law of biology. Not these creatures, Overmind. They appear to prioritize group survival over individual survival. They will sacrifice themselves for beings they have never encountered before. Kethvar processed this information through the collected experience of 1,000 conquered worlds. Nothing in the Empire's vast knowledge suggested such behavior was possible in an intelligent species. Show me their world, he commanded. The holographic display activated, showing Earth from the perspective of long-range sensors. Kethvar's consciousness recoiled from what he saw. The planet's surface was a nightmare of hostile environments, massive storms that could destroy cities, geological activity that could reshape continents overnight, weather patterns that could freeze or burn entire regions without warning. How does life survive on such a world? He wondered aloud. It does not merely survive, Overmind. It thrives. Our sensors detect massive population centers, extensive industrial development, and military installations that span the entire planet. Kethvar studied the data more carefully. Weapon systems? Beyond classification, Overmind. They appear to have developed military technology, specifically designed for planetary extinction events. Their orbital defenses could repel invasion forces 100 times larger than our fleet. For the first time in 3 centuries, Kethvar experienced something approaching uncertainty. The Empire had succeeded by conquering species that developed in stable environments, peaceful worlds that produced beings optimized for cooperation and technological advancement. Easy prey, Earth was not an easy world. Dispatch Terror Fleet Omega to the human colonies, Kethvar commanded. We will demonstrate the cost of defying the Empire. Overmind, the archives suggest caution when dealing with Deathworld species. The archives were written by extinct civilizations, Kethvar replied coldly. We are the Empire. We adapt, we overcome, we consume. 3 days later, Terror Fleet Omega reached the human colony of New Montana. The Vorthak expected to find poorly defended frontier settlements ripe for harvest. Instead, they found something that made their bioships recoil in primal fear. New Montana was a fortress world. Every human colony was a fortress world. Impossible. Transmitted Fleet Commander Zeph-9 as his sensors analyzed the colony's defenses. This world contains more military hardware than the homeworlds of most galactic civilizations. Orbital weapons platforms surrounded the planet like a metallic constellation. Each platform mounted enough firepower to sterilize a continent. The planet's surface bristled with shield generators and defensive installations built into the very bedrock. Most disturbing of all, the colony's 3 million inhabitants appeared to be mobilizing for total war. Fleet Commander, reported his tactical node, we are detecting massive energy buildups throughout the system. The humans appear to be activating some kind of superweapon. Before Zeph-9 could respond, space around his fleet erupted with weapons fire, but it was not coming from the orbital platforms or planetary defenses. It was coming from the asteroid belt. Every asteroid in the system had been hollowed out and converted into weapons platforms. For decades, human engineers had been turning cosmic debris into hidden fortresses. The Vorthak fleet found itself surrounded by an entire solar system that had been weaponized. All ships execute emergency jump procedures, Zeph-9 commanded. But the humans had anticipated this. Gravity wells activated throughout the system, preventing faster-than-light travel. The Vorthak fleet was trapped in a kill zone that stretched across billions of cubic kilometers. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it ended, Terror Fleet Omega no longer existed. The few survivors who managed to escape carried tales that spread fear throughout the Empire's ranks. The humans had not simply defeated a Vorthak fleet. They had eliminated it so thoroughly that biomatter, recycling systems could find nothing larger than molecular fragments. HFY received the reports with growing unease. The Empire's greatest strength was its ability to learn from battle, to adapt to new threats. But how do you adapt to an enemy that treats entire star systems as weapons? Overmind, Warnode Prime reported. Long-range sensors are detecting massive fleet movements throughout human space. They appear to be mobilizing for full-scale war. How many ships? Unknown, Overmind. Our sensors detect several thousand vessels, but many more appear to be concealed or disguised. Intelligence estimates suggest the humans possess a navy larger than any known galactic civilization. HFY felt something he had not experienced in centuries: fear. Not for himself. His consciousness was distributed across the entire fleet and could not be easily destroyed. But fear for the Empire itself. Open communication channels to all human vessels, he commanded. The response came from Admiral Sarah Chen aboard the UES Indomitable. Her image appeared in the command center, and HFY found himself studying the face of a predator that had learned to think. I am Overmind HFY, Supreme Commander of the Vorthak Empire. I offer terms for peace between our species. Chen's expression did not change. What terms? Withdrawal from all contested systems, recognition of human territorial claims, cessation of hostilities, and what do we offer in return? HFY paused. This was where negotiations always succeeded. Every species would accept peace to avoid destruction. Your continued existence, he said. Chen laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. Overmind, I think you misunderstand the situation. We did not come here to negotiate. We came here to end you. Admiral, be reasonable. War between our species would be catastrophic. Millions would die. Yes, Chen agreed calmly. Millions of your people would die. That is the point. HFY felt the Empire's collective consciousness recoil in shock. This creature was threatening genocide with the same tone most beings use to discuss weather conditions. Admiral, surely we can reach an accommodation. The galaxy is vast. There is room for both our species. No, Chen replied with absolute finality. There is not room in this galaxy for both predators and prey. You chose to be predators. You chose to hunt innocents. You chose to harvest thinking beings like crops. The human admiral leaned forward, and HFY saw something in her eyes that made his biomechanical systems recoil in primordial terror. We are what prey becomes when it learns to hunt predators. The communication ended, leaving HFY alone with the terrible realization that the Empire had made a fundamental error. They had assumed that Deathworld species would be like other life forms, interested in survival, willing to negotiate, capable of coexistence. But humans were not interested in coexistence with species that harvested children. They were interested in extinction. The final battle took place in the Nexus system itself, where the Empire's main fleet waited in formation around their mobile command fortress. The humans arrived not as a fleet but as a swarm. Thousands of ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel simultaneously, moving with coordination that suggested a hive mind of their own. But it was not a hive mind. It was something far more dangerous, individual predators who had chosen to hunt together. The battle was not a battle. It was an execution. Human ships moved with suicidal aggression, using tactics that prioritized maximum damage over survival. They rammed bioships at relativistic speeds. They detonated their own vessels to create chain reactions. They fought like creatures that viewed death as merely another weapon to be used against their enemies. The Vorthak Empire, which had conquered the galaxy through superior adaptation and overwhelming force, discovered that there are some things in the universe that cannot be conquered. There are some predators that evolution designed specifically to eliminate other predators. As the last Vorthak bioship fell silent in the void, Admiral Chen broadcast a message on all frequencies throughout the galaxy. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Fleet. To all species currently under Vorthak occupation, you are free. To all species who might consider following the Vorthak example, choose differently.